92.5.
But you'll see that things keep getting in the way, and you'll see us doing this a lot.
Okay.
That's always fun.
David, welcome, by the way.
Thank you. It's
Thanks
great
for
to be
coming here.
Thank you.
So you have a new movie coming out called One Chance,
Yes.
and it's a story about a guy that ended up on with Simon Cowell on his show auditioning.
Yes. It's 6 years ago, I saw this amazing YouTube clip of a guy named Paul Potts, a chubby guy with horrible teeth and a cheap suit and a bad haircut, and he came out to sing for Simon Cowell, and he said, "I'm going to sing opera," and Simon rolled his eyes, and he opened his mouth and brought the house down, and I'm sitting there in front of my computer, tears streaming down my face, and I sent it to everyone I knew. 100 million people watched this clip, and it was the first big viral YouTube sensation. And a year later, I got a screenplay that had those 2 minutes as the end of the story. And so the story leading up to those 2 minutes is dramatic as anything.
Was this the kid? I'm trying to think back. I may even remember this. Was he like a goth-looking kid that had this incredible voice?
No, he's a very pasty, chubby guy. I mean, genuinely horrible teeth. He was bullied as a kid, Paul Potts, and his teeth were smashed, and his family could never afford to fix them. And so he opened his mouth to smile, and you're kind of winced.
God bless
and yet
him.
here, absolutely gorgeous voice, and singing opera, and trained to sing opera. So spent his whole life training and never had any success. We had settled in this steel town in Wales called Port Talbot, and was working for years in a cell phone shop, and then lost that job, was in a horrible accident, couldn't do the work, was out of work for a year and a half, going broke, and his wife said, "Hey, there might be this show you can audition for, Britain's Got Talent." And he went on the first episode of the show and auditioned for Simon, and went on to win the competition, became an international singing star, and sold millions of albums, and
Was it the kind of deal, you know how sometimes they put somebody on and the whole audience starts laughing at the poor guy when he walks out?
Oh, believe
was he
me,
treated that way?
The ridicule. I mean, you hear the audience going, "Get off the stage!" And if they had things to throw, they would have thrown them.
Yeah.
I mean, they were very skeptical, and I mean, candidly, there are just not as many opera fans in the world as there should be, and no one expected. This was after they'd had a lot of auditions and a lot of very bad acts anyway, and they just figured, well, this is going to be another joke.
So it was just coincidence that you had already seen the clip and you were already wowed by this guy.
I was already a
and
big
then
fan,
boom.
yeah.
So, I mean, you're a director. When
Yeah.
you see things like that, like, is your whole life thinking, I wonder if this could be a
Would that
movie,
be a
or
movie?
here's how
I hope not. Once in a while you go, wow, would that, you sort of go through, would that,
Right.
how would that add up? But, there was just a writer, Justin Zackham, he'd written The Bucket List, and he did a beautiful job writing the screenplay. And that's what really sold me.
Right. Wow.
So what does Paul think of the whole thing?
Paul's very pleased with the movie.
Is he in the movie at all or no?
He is not in the movie. He came to visit us one day on the set when his character and he and his wife were getting married, and he was my host when I first went to Wales. We shot in the actual town where he worked in the cell phone shop, and he showed me that, and he showed me the house he lived in when he was broke, and we shot on that street, and it's a beautiful place. That's a weird combination of ugly and beautiful. There's the biggest steel mill in the UK is there, and but there are also these gorgeous Welsh hills, and people there lead a grim life, but they seem happy.
So as the director, when you are trying to cast the role of Paul, as you've described him,
Yeah,
I mean, that's got to be weird, right? Like, you're not fat enough, or your teeth aren't bad enough.
there was well, the teeth we could do. We have there's prosthetics, but it was important for whoever played him to be a special kind of person, and we found the most special person, a guy who happens to be a brilliant actor named James Corden, who is a big TV star for his show Gavin and Stacey in the UK. And about a year and a half ago, a couple of years ago, he was in a show called One Man, Two Governors that came to New York last year, and he won the Tony Award on Broadway.
Right, yeah, I remember hearing
for that.
about that.
And he's just astonishingly funny man, very smart. He was exactly the right age, exactly the right size. he actually is a good singer, although Paul does all the singing in the movie. And then we had to find the right actress to play Paul's wife, and eventually that was a much longer search. I probably met about 100 actresses, and I met this wonderful woman named Alexandra Roach, who played the young Margaret Thatcher in Meryl Streep's Iron Lady.
Oh, right. Okay.
And she and James instantly had amazing chemistry. And for me, the movie evolved into a romantic comedy. It's really about their relationship and how a woman's belief in this guy's talent carried him through all his travails.
So Paul Potts's life has obviously changed since Britain's Got Talent. But I
Yeah.
mean, once this movie comes out, how do you prepare him for something like that?
Well, I think he's already gone through the most astonishing, shocking, instant transformation. I mean, watching that YouTube clip is like watching Cinderella in 2 minutes. You know, you're really watching. I think one of the reasons it's so moving is that you're watching a man's life change right before your eyes. And so he went from literally not knowing how he was going to pay the rent the next month,
right,
to winning that contest, earning 100,000 British pounds, selling 2 million albums, becoming an
Going from
international
worst to first.
recording star, and so I think there'll be a little bump in his performing itinerary, but I think he's ready for it.
not everybody can handle something like that. I mean, you saw,
No.
what happened to Susan Boyle, right?
Sure.
And that at first looked like it was going well for her, and then all of a sudden she kind of shut down. So
Yeah,
do you
and it's
see
freaky.
him-
And one of the things that defined Paul was his lack of confidence. You know, he had horrible stage fright and freaked out every time he had to go perform. So the fact that he was able to go out and sing under those circumstances was special. But he's managed to deal with it. And what he does have is a real belief in his talent. And that's one of the sweetest things to see.
We also
So
heard
nice.
in the soundtrack, Taylor Swift is in the soundtrack.
Taylor Swift does the end title song, a brilliant song. She came to see it and was so enthusiastic about the movie, and just the idea of unconditional love that's conveyed in the movie, that she wrote a beautiful song called "Sweeter Than Fiction."
Wow.
And just on iTunes, you can see her talking about it now. It came out yesterday.
What did you think about Taylor?
Taylor is lovely and fantastically pretty and incredibly talented. You know, she wrote the song with Jack Antonoff from Fun, the group Fun.
Right, yeah.
And it's a great song. And it's, I'm in awe of people who can just sit down. Oh, I'm going to write a song for your movie. Okay, great. And
We'll come back in 5 minutes. We'll be ready.
Yeah. So that was thrilling.
That's awesome. David Frankel, thank you so much. What a pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thank you, David.
All right.